Everything will be terrible, Paul. Everything will destroy our childhood.
Oh, I mean, our childhood has already been absolutely demolished. It's fine. I'll tend to destroy this generation's childhood.
I will destroy your children.
That's what being an adult is all about.
Or we can just do Warhammer stuff and make it worse for them. Or better. Maybe better. It's like 10th edition, but cleaned up a bit.
Exactly, yeah. Which is what everyone kind of wanted.
And then there's people it's like, no, change everything.
No, go back to a previous edition. No, nah.
Well, yeah, there's also that. Go specifically back to a previous edition, make that the current edition, and then everyone will play the edition that I want because that's the current edition. But people always fight about that. 4th edition was pretty generally liked, though. Got rid of a lot of problems with 3rd edition. Maybe 11th edition will be the same like that.
Well, we'll see. Oh my god, the sky is falling. It'll be fun.
Shall we begin?
Yes.
This is Blood Bald! We're called Blood Ball because he is bald.
And he is blood.
I am blood. Sup, blood. That's how vampires will greet each other.
Our vibe is not that. We are not the kind of people who is like sup, blood.
It's spelled differently. It's a totally different word.
We are definitely like, hello, fellow.
Greetings, friend.
Greetings. How's it going?
Concerns for 11th that it will be worse. Like, arguably, 7th was arguably worse than 6th, and 5th was arguably worse than 4th. Ooh.
Here's what you do. Is every time you play, you roll a d12.
Some dice.
And whatever the number is, that's the edition you play. And if it's a 12, you play someone else.
Yeah, that could work. There you go. Making an army might be a bit difficult. Or you'd have to do that.
You have to come up with a list, but if the list is for the wrong edition, you just lose immediately.
Well, yeah. Oh, yes, I'll put my Centurions in. Oh, wait, we're playing 3rd edition. No, that doesn't work.
Damn it. Or, oh no, we're playing 11th edition, potentially.
We don't know. We've already done a video about whether Centurions will go to Legends, and we don't know, and we'll find out, and it might not happen on release, and it might happen on Codex release, or it might still not happen. I've been told that tactical squads will go to Legends for the last 9 years, and they still haven't, and they're still there for sale, and they're not on a last chance to buy. The only unit that's last chance to buy is the Vanguard Veterans. 11th edition might be fine, or it could be a great concern, and it destroys everything you love about your army.
It's true. Like with anything that happens in life, it could either be good or bad. It's a 50-50 chance. You know, it's like we're winning the lottery.
Right, yeah. There's 2 options. Either you win it or you don't.
Exactly, right? So either 11th edition will be bad or good. And at the moment, it is a coin flip.
Is it not allowed to be mid and basically the same as 10th edition?
On the internet?
All right, okay.
It's either the worst thing ever and it's destroyed like the entire concept of Warhammer, or it's the best thing ever and Henry Cavill will personally come over to your house and give you a high five.
Or, well, there might be one person on the internet that's like, yeah, this seems about the same, no real change. I wanted them to feel included.
Down and change their mind.
Okay.
There is no fence sitting here. The fence will be burnt, so make your choice.
Yeah, it definitely looks like we're going for it. There's no one or the other. We're merging everything, and that's what Games Workshop's first thing is with 11th edition. 11th edition? 11th edition. A unified way to play.
A unified way to play.
Yeah, rather than, okay, we have the narrative books for the people that want to run a narrative campaign, and then we have tournaments for tournament people, and they're allegedly more balanced. A unified experience, so everything is narrative and competitive at the same time, and each side is fearing the worst.
I feel like they have good ideas, but I also think it's probably going to end up being that they'll still have Crusade stuff and they'll still have the tournament companion, right? It'll just be a case of, like, if you just want to play your basic game, like, you just pick up and play a game, you'll have a somewhat halfway experience rather than it being more leaning towards the competitive, not narrative side, right? Which is what it is.
They're definitely pushing the mission deck as the ordinary way to play.
Yeah, which it kind of is now, right? It's still the ordinary way to play. It's just that ordinary way to play is going to become a little bit more narrative and a bit more kind of varied based on what you're bringing to the table rather than kind of it being a separate thing.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to be able to say, okay, everyone has to buy the mission deck if it's sold separately, because it's going to be sold separately unless it comes with the core rules when they sell the core rules separately, assuming they sell the core rules separately.
I would guess that the cards probably come in the start box. If they are smart...
Yeah, they should do.
Which
I think we know that they do.
Which, you know, this is Games Workshop we're talking about. They would put it on the app.
Yeah,
But
that would work better, but then people wouldn't buy the card because it's their way of doing seasons.
yes,
Buy this new thing to pay into the new season of Warhammer.
yeah.
I don't know how many missions there are going to be in the core rulebook, because I did not like that in the 10th edition core rules there was just the one basic mission when previous core rulebooks had so many more.
I feel like there's kind of the two stages of learning the game. There's learning the game in terms of like, here is how you roll a dice, here is how you move, and then here's the tactical part of it, right? There's learning how to drive a car, and then learning that going 90 miles an hour the wrong way down a motorway is wrong. You can learn to put your foot on the accelerator, but you should probably learn not to put your foot on the accelerator.
So what you're saying
the
is
time.
you need to learn to not overextend.
Yes, which I have still failed to do. It's taken the entire 10th edition. I thought I was clean, but turns out, no, I'm not. I'm still bad.
Yeah.
I keep playing armies that strike first, infiltrating with Gene Stealers, advance and charge with Death Watch,
Yeah.
and now I've got Armored Spear Tip, so I can fly in with a Corvus Blackstar or two, drop units
Love
off.
Armored Spear Tip. What a great detachment. I love it. I've actually gone the other way. I basically went from overextending constantly and trying to be the person to hit first and going, oh, wait, that was a mistake, to now I'm basically a purely reactive player, which is not good. Trying to react to what my opponent's doing rather than being proactive, which is probably my weakest part of the game. So hopefully when 11th edition comes out, everyone will be just as bad as me because we'll be learning it.
That's the hope. But then we've got to think about balance in that terms, because the Armored Spear Tip detachment looks really, really strong. I've played 2 games with it because I did 2 lists. I have now played those lists. I did switch out one of the Fortress kill teams for a Spectrus kill team because they have an instigator bolt carbine, so after shooting they can get back into the transport without needing to use a stratagem. And it is rather strong. I was able to just fly away from an orc battle wagon and it was chasing me for about 2 turns.
Oh yeah, I don't think we need to talk about balance for the Armor Spear Tip because it is hilarious. But it's hilarious for an army I play, and so I'm happy.
Yeah. If Eldar was doing it, oh, evil, dirty, disgusting Eldar, got to stop.
Oh yeah,
them
but they
doing
have
it.
like Melter 3 instead of Melter 2, so of course they need to get
Oh,
that.
well, absolutely.
That extra
It's not
one,
like-
it makes all the difference.
I mean, it would have actually, because I did shoot an orc truck with eradicators. It was on 1 wound left, and then I fired a Corvus Blackstar at it, didn't destroy it. Fired another Corvus Blackstar at it, it rolled all 6s for its invulnerable save. So the Spectre's kill team threw a grenade, and that's what did it. Well, that meant I had 2 units not shooting other things. So yeah, that one melter, it matters. It matters.
Eldari were OP and deserve to be nerfed and deserve to be in the ground. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
If you're mad about that, yell at me in the comments. It's not my channel.
Great. You don't have to read them. There have been a lot of complaints about Games Workshop's balance, especially in the last few months. We're like, does Games Workshop, have they just stopped caring? Or no, is this just how they've been operating the whole time? They released the Twin Lance. It's super powerful. We can see from the rules on the datasheet, it's super powerful. Then, in like 6 weeks later, they up the points and change the rules. Defilers are currently really, really strong because in a game about movement and moving around terrain, they can ignore all that and walk through the terrain.
Yeah, it feels like they just kind of went, meh, it's the end of edition. Chuck some stuff out. I mean,
some of it's overpowered. They also had the Tyranny with the Lash Whip, which was not good and overpriced, and now it's good.
I think it's just how it has been the whole time. I think it's one of those coin flip things, but I think they were a bit better with it, and then they've kind of stacked the end with so many releases that you're bound to get a few that are good and a few that are bad, but I guess there's just a lot more that are good than bad. It's whatever, right? I mean, I guess, again, it's probably down to the fact that maybe some of this stuff does kind of balance itself around 11th edition. We don't know.
Yeah.
Like, maybe moving through terrain isn't that much of an advantage in 11th if there are different ways you move through terrain.
And there's not as much terrain, or it's all area terrain, not as much solid pieces, yeah.
Yeah, and how you shoot through it, and getting height and stuff. You know, there's a lot of different things, but also...
But balance is not considered a strong point of Games Workshop. Or some people like what they do and others don't. Like, oh, they'll release a thing, it seems barely play-tested. We are the playtesters, and 6 weeks later, it gets a patch. Some people are like, that's great, it was a quick fix. Other people are like, why didn't you just playtest this better yourself before release?
Okay, so as someone who was a career tester, software tester, there's probably a couple of things going on here. One, it probably was tested, but someone was like, no, it's too late, the rules have been printed, we can't fix it now. Or you have to realize that, let's say even if there are 100 people who work for the balancing team, which there aren't, but let's say they can play, each of those people pair off and play a game a day for a week. So that's, 50 games a day for a week. That's like 350.
Yep.
You release the rules, and how many games do you get played instantly? Like thousands. similar with video games, right? You can only there's only so much you can kind of see, and especially one of the problems, if anyone has ever done any DMing for something like D&D, you can probably come up with an idea in your head about a boss fight or an encounter.
Or very obviously, they get the ladder from the woodsmith,
Exactly.
carpenter, woodsmith.
The woodsmith.
Yes, and then you use the ladder to get round the back of the watchtower. They won't think of that. They'll be like, we need to go to the other side of the country to get some dynamite.
Yeah. Or exactly, right? It's one of those things where you can design what everything you think is balanced, and players come up to it and go, I'm just going to kick the door in, and you go, didn't think about that. Not that I think that accounts for some of it, because as we said, like you look at something like the Twin Lances, or you look at the Armored Spear Tip, you just go, that looks broken.
Yeah, but we can see that before playing it.
Again, part of it was probably like they made the Armored Spear Tip and went, oh yeah, I'm going to use these things. Oh, it's not too bad. And then someone went, what about Storm Raven? And they went, good point. Or what about Corvus Blackstar? And they went,
But we said no aircraft. Oh, well, actually, do you forget the rule that says you can make your aircraft not aircraft?
Yeah. Again, maybe that's something that in 11th they changed the way that works. Like, it's still got the aircraft keyword, but it doesn't move the same. I don't know.
Oh, they might not have hover as a rule. Then we've got to see what they do with all the units. Are we going to continue having some flyers or not? And but the legends things. Optimistically, I'm thinking they might better integrate legends like they have for Age of Sigmar and Horus Heresy. But also, Horus Heresy 3 and Age of Sigmar 4 have been less popular than their past editions. So the pessimist in me says that the competitive people who mock legends will say, oh my goodness, just buy new Space Marines each edition. What's the big deal? That they might win out.
Several of them. Just buy several boxes of everything new all the time. More money, more problems. I do think the way that they're going with the unified way to play, I think does make sense. I like the way that it seems to be working out in terms of the way your army has a way that it wants to play. Like, for example, not that this was a good idea, but 36 Centurions hates any mission that requires any sort of action, but loves Purge the Foe.
Right, so you play like the World Eaters and be like, I want to do a kill thing. So you'd pick a detachment that, regardless of stratagems, gives you the kill type missions.
Exactly, and it's that kind of level of, during the list building, being able to actually come up with the way your army wants to play, and then that matching in with what the enemy is doing and giving you a mission that combines those two things does feel quite good. I think, or at least that seems on paper to be a good idea.
I do indeed like that as a concept.
I can foresee it being one of those things where you go, okay, you always need to go with this detachment because you need to have Purge the Foe because it's a completely broken against. Like, if you don't have Purge the Foe, then if you go against Purge the Foe, your mission is impossible.
Yeah, Purge the Foe wins 3 out of 5 times, and the one other time is against other Purge the Foe people. So, like, 3.5 of your games will be auto victories. Yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully there is, like, based on what we've seen from the ones they revealed, that seems to be like not how it is. It seems like you're both trying to do the same things, which is good.
There is a lot of the similar things. Get into the objective buildings, and then maybe you do an action, or maybe you have to kill an enemy that's in there, or maybe you have to hold that and stop the enemy from taking it.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the idea of asymmetric things, and it'd be more, okay, I need to find out what my opponent wants to do, and then also stop them as well as do my own thing. You probably can't just ignore what you're doing. So I can't just feed Gene Stealers into my opponent continually because they'll get too many points.
Exactly right. And also then you have the fact that the secondaries you can hold on to, so you're also not punished for going something that can't do actions as well. Because you can just go, oh, I don't have to discard these, but if I get a chance to do them later, I can, but it's not going to be, oh, my turn 1 draw is 10 less points than it could have been.
Yeah, it could be. Okay, then turn 2, I killed a thing, I destroyed a vehicle, and also I had this unit that couldn't see anything, so they did an action. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can score a maximum of 15. I don't know what happens if it's like, well, I've done this one. Can you choose not to score a mission? We'll have to find out. That might be something we find out. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, well, I could have scored an extra 5 points a turn later, but you made me score 15 and waste 5.
Yeah. And also means you're not getting, you don't have to start every game going, okay, I need to deploy in a way that if I get area denial and tempting target, I can get everywhere.
Ah, this is why you play the Bastion task force. Then all of your battle line units can advance and do actions. It's wonderful for Terraform. Just run into the middle.
What I do
it all.
Is I forget about all of that. Deploy like an absolute animal and then go, oh, I got area denial and tempting target. Well, I can't do either. I'm an idiot. Or Centurions.
We'll see how that works out in 11th edition. But yeah, kill mission might be the best way to go it. I like the idea. And detachments have a different number of points. So the smaller ones that are less good, because I've noticed the Games Workshop is bad at balancing detachments. There are clearly, you take this detachment if you want to play in tournaments. If you're not taking that detachment, or you're amazing with one of the other detachments, but even then a specific number of detachments, otherwise you're not playing properly. You'll just lose. Your win rate of your faction is based on these 1 or 2 detachments, and that's about it. Of course, Space Marines have the option of 40 detachments if you include the chapter-specific ones, so they're different. Orcs have got a few now. Necrons are getting more and more. But okay, Battle Sisters and Genestealer Cult. There is 2 detachments that you take. That's about it.
The way that 10th edition detachments were, because it's very clear that it was like, this is the kind of thing you're building around. I really like that.
Yeah, it's a sub-faction, you specialize, you got some stratagems that help.
And I think the idea of like some of those becoming less points, then you have Shadowmark Talon, because that's what I know. Like that's a 2-point detachment. So all of your kind of like stealthy stuff can go in there, and then you can have another 1-point detachment, like a smaller detachment for like tanks or something, right? So you can definitely start combining things like that.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, Penitent Host definitely, especially feels like you don't have enough troops to work it, and the points for Repentia are not good for other detachments. So Games Workshop could better balance Repentia points. Or, yeah, you got a 1-point Penitent Host somewhere. Maybe if you can add the Penitent Host detachment to other detachments, you could have good and affordable Repentia. But then 2,000 points and 1,000 points are different.
Yeah.
Because 2,000 points you can easily get, like, multiple detachments. If something is 3 points, you can't use it in a 1,000 point game, because you have a maximum of 2 points in the 1,000 point games.
I can foresee that most detachments are probably going to be 2, I think. And then there'll be like, I think 1 and 3 are going to be kind of rare, where like 3 are like the stuff like Gladius, which affects your entire army constantly. Like Gladius is one of those ones where it's like, you can kind of take anything in it because it is so kind of generic and, you know, agnostic to what you're bringing, versus something like Penitent Host where you're bringing specific things, or Drukhari having like the Rax or the Homunculus Coven detachment when there's barely any Homunculus Coven units, right?
That's right.
Those will probably be like the 1-pointers, and then
got about
stuff in the middle,
3
stuff
different
like
ones. Yeah,
and stuff like Shadowmark Talon, where it's kind of specialized, but there's a lot of variance in there. Like it's
not every
scout
stratagem needs to
and
have the keywords to do.
Yeah, and I feel like the majority kind of cover a 2, and then 3. And 3s might also be like, if you're getting a 3-1, you have more access to more. They might give you more enhancements or something, or a 1.1 might have less.
We know that there's going to be, you can have up to 2, I think it's 2 enhancements.
Because actually Strike Force enhancement limit's got up to 4, which is really interesting, because it's currently 3.
Yes, so it's 3 either way. Now it's going to be 2 enhancements at 1,000 points, 4 enhancements at your 2,000 points. So that would be all of them. But it could be that if you have 2 detachments, you might take 3 from one and 1 from another.
Yeah, it might be what I'm thinking. It might be like a 1-point detachment only has 2 enhancements available. Like you can only pick one of 2, so you would have to get a 2-1 to get up to your maximum. Or if you're buying a 3-point, or you're getting a 3-point detachment, it might have like 6 enhancements. So you get your max 4, but you get more of a choice if you're going with a 3er. We don't know, but that's kind of sounds like something that would make sense for a 1-point detachment to have kind of less stuff, but extremely specialized. So because it's only going to be like a small amount of your army. Like you want to take this 1-point kind of detachment to get a very specialized force. Like it might be like pure Terminators, or hopefully maybe some like pure Centurions. And then you have like 1 enhancement. And then you have your 2 ones, which kind of are your general, but have a bit of, you know, kind of specificity, kind of focus. And then your big Gladius type ones, which kind of affects everything.
Might get expanded.
You get expanded stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for the Sisters, 4 of the detachments sort of affect the whole army or are generally good. Hallowed Martyrs, you get better if you're damaged. Army of Faith, you generally get more miracle dice. Then Bringers of Flame, unless you're taking like combat specialized units, but they can't really benefit, but they still in theory could benefit. And Champions of Faith only affects a few units. That would be great for 1,000 points. It is great for 1,000 points, but at 2,000 points, it probably isn't as good.
Yeah. I'm also thinking if you don't kind of have more or less access depending on your detachment limit, you like let's say all of them have 6 stratagems each like they do now. you could take 3 1-point detachments and get 18 stratagems to choose from.
Yeah, we don't know how they're going to do stratagems.
Yeah. Again, we know stratagems, you can only use 1 per phase per unit.
Yes, so I can't use the fight on death in the Hallowed Martyrs and also have full rolls to hit and wounds from the Hallowed Martyrs on the same unit in the fight phase.
There's even stuff like, if you re-roll a charge, you can't tank shock.
Yes, because that's in the charge phase and tank shock is also in the charge phase. Assuming they're all still in the charge phase, they might re-amalgamate the charge phase and the fight phase into one.
Yes, that may be something they do change, but it's one of those things where that does affect quite a lot. Like, if you want to use grenades, you better use it on something you weren't also going to use a different stratagem on.
Yeah.
Which I guess generally you don't, I think, but it is going to affect some. Obviously, combos are a main thing, but it's going to make you really make sure you're not re-rolling something when you don't need to.
Yeah, stop doing your rerolls. I mean, we know that's going to still be a stratagem at least. So we don't know if they're going to have still 6 stratagems per detachment. And we don't know if you then lose or gain stratagems. So yeah, you could have 18 stratagems, and that feels like a very bad bloat. We shouldn't assume you can just swap out the bad stuff for good stuff. Games Workshop decides what you can do, not you, unless you play for fun, which isn't allowed because everyone's playing the same way now.
No fun allowed, but we've already discussed this.
I want 3 versions of Armor of Contempt.
Yeah. It might be that you have, 18 stratagems, but because you're so specialized, it's like 6 of them can be used on anything with like a flamer keyword or something, but the other 2 detachments you have nothing to do with flamers.
If you do have lots of versions of Armor of
that.
Contempt, then can you use the same one like multiple times? Because they're different stratagems. This one's the Gladius Task Force Armor of Contempt. This one's a different one.
The same.
Yeah.
However, I was speaking to Legion W when I was in Japan, and he was saying that there was an issue where the translation into Japanese, because they changed who translates it, sometimes they change the way they translate names of stratagems, so they become different.
Oh, good.
Armor of Contempt becomes Contempted Armor or something if you translate it, and suddenly they're 2 different stratagems.
Well, we already have that in Chaos Space Marines, the unflailingly obdurate stratagem. It's Armor of Contempt, but with a different synonym for Armor of Contempt, and it does the same thing.
Like maybe something like Armor of Contempt becomes maybe they have like army-wide stratagems, because Armor of Contempt being like in every bloody detachment, like
almost
just have
everyone,
that be, like just have that be something you get access when you have Space Marines, and that would make a lot of sense to have like some of those generic ones become access to globally, and then your detachment stratagems become more specialized.
Yeah, we know there's going to be 70 new and updated detachments. There's like 3 different ways they could do that. Could be the 70 new detachments, or the 70 new detachments also we're updating some detachments, or between the new and updated detachments, that will total 70. But I think you would need to update most of the detachments anyway.
Yeah. Even going down to just like which ones cost what points becomes an update, so...
Yes. So are you hoping for a 1-point Centurion detachment?
I mean, it would be nice. I'm not gonna hold my breath, but it would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking for the Sisters, a 1-point detachment could be focused on non-transport tanks, the Exorcist and the Castigator.
Yeah.
There's not many
there's
other
lots
options.
Of options.
Yeah, I mean, Gene Stealer Cult, we might get one that's, say, focusing on the Psychers, the Benefactus, the Magus, and the Patriarch. So you want those 3 characters. I don't know how
even think about
Deathwatch
stuff like, any of the detachments that allow you to bring in allies, right? Like your Brood Brothers or your
Final Day
Night ones that allow you to bring stuff in. They could be 1-point detachments just to get you access to that, but it's a kind of its own specialized force which doesn't have to play into the rest of your force. It's just kind of like an extra auxiliary force for you.
We don't know if Deathwatch will be properly playable as their own army. Like, there's 1 detachment for them as an Adeptus Astartes army, but they can use all the other Space Marine ones. They're currently living on an index. And if Games Workshop decides, all these kill teams that are made up of a bunch of different boxes that you can't buy as a single box are not going to have rules anymore, then we have the Deathwatch Decimus kill team, which is called the kill team when it's sold, but not to be confused with the Imperial Agents kill team, which is the veteran kill team, which was previously sold, called the Deathwatch kill team. Now we have a new thing called the Deathwatch kill team. So it doesn't hold up well for at least one of our units. Whereas Imperial Agents, you may get to play all of the detachments at once. All of them cost 0.4 detachment points. We also don't know how detachment rules are going to work, because I had this idea, maybe you'll get 2 detachment rules if you pick 2 different detachments. So, do all the models get the benefit of both detachment rules, if applicable? Because I had the idea of combining the Xeno Creed potentially with the Biosanctuary Brood Surge. And so one is specialized on the Biophagus character, which can attach into, say, Metamorphs, which is specialized in the Xeno Creed. Then you have a unit that can advance and charge pretty easily, rerolls the charge roll, rerolls the advance roll, and they get +1 to charge, and they get +1 attack when they charge, and they have so many stratagems available to them. How do you decide how many stratagems you have? Do you have to then, like in, say, 9th edition, say, these units are in this detachment, these units are in this detachment, and never the two shall meet? You need to know which Repentia is a Hallowed Martyrs Repentia and which one's a Penitent Host Repentia.
Yes.
You don't know the answer. I'm just asking hypothetically.
Yeah, my guess is probably going to be like the way the detachments will work is that they could cross focus, but also there's probably a reason you wouldn't. But I don't know. We don't know, right? It might be that they allow that, and it might be quite interesting to have some of those combos, right? But then it also might be if you have like a character, you have to assign it to the detachment, and then you can only attach it to other units within that detachment, right?
Yeah. In the Eye of Terror, the Apocalypse book that came out, then it limits which units can be affected by stratagems and detachment rules if they're within that detachment. That could be a blueprint. Although the book also recommends not using detachments in Apocalypse games, so that's totally separate. I don't know how Apocalypse games will work in 11th edition, if they have a new book or not.
Insanely, because Apocalypse games are insane.
Yeah, they're very fun.
So the quote from the article: the detachments will then give rules that will apply to your whole army, the detachments plural, though certain detachments and rules may only affect certain units within it. So what will probably happen is, yes, you could probably combine the two, but then it's like, if you have a 1-point detachment, it's probably like Phobos units. Right, so it might be that your 2-point detachment also you can affect on Phobos units, but then the 1-point, it probably goes like down. So stuff in your 2-point detachment can affect stuff in your 1-point detachment, but probably not the other way around because of how specialized it is.
Yeah, I see that. Not as like as a strict rule, just generally that will probably be how it works. Yeah.
Because actually, it does also talk about how there'll be upgrade tag on some enhancements, which means they can be applied to 3 non-character units.
Yeah, that's presumably so you could have, say, Centurions with upgrades,
right? You don't need a Centurion
because there's no Centurion character, and never will be.
You also pick which units they join when you build the list rather than start the game. So that's the other thing they've changed.
Yeah. Yes, so characters, which most people are doing anyway. I didn't in like the Biosanctuary Brood Surge, because I like to shift around a Biophagus to give the detachment bonus to either some Acolytes or some Metamorphs, depending on what my opponent was weak against. But that was the only time.
Yeah, I think I only ever did it with Shrike and that was before Aethan Shan, when Shrike was able to be low knocked.
Yeah, so you might want to be alone.
Do I want him to help a unit, or do I want him on his own? And that would sometimes change. Now it doesn't, because obviously without his unit, he's not low knocked because of Aethan Shan. It does sound like it can be
multiple detachment rules. Yeah.
Yeah. I think is, out of all the things with 11th edition, that's the thing I'm most interested in. That's the thing I'm most excited for, because I think that's going to really open up. Like, again, this is part of the narrative, right, where you can make your own kind of army, and you can make it like, I can make the Screaming Ravens. Like, Shadowmount Talon does a lot for the Screaming Ravens.
Yeah.
But I could have a 1-point thing that does the Storm Raven stuff really well, and then the other 2 go for all of my other kind of jump packs and the Centurion teleporting stuff, right?
Yes, then it's like, okay, now everything in my army is pretty good. It has been especially a problem with the Genestealer cult more than anyone. Super specialized detachments. Oh, my bikes and my transports are good. Okay, great. So my Genestealers are doing nothing particularly special. My guys inside the trucks are just average guys.
Yeah, I think the downside with it will make things probably. I think at the start of the edition it'll be not as well balanced as the start of something like 10th edition. I know start 10th edition has had its problems.
Ooh, it was many
problems. It had 1 or 2 outliers, right? I think 11th edition will have
time.
Yeah, I think 11th edition will have a lot of kind of like small problems in it, because I think something like your example with the bikes there, right? They're probably they're probably pointed with the assumption that you would use them in the bike detachment, because otherwise, if they were pointed too low, the bike detachment would be too good if it improved them too much. I don't know the exact specifics, but that's the kind of idea, right? Where if you design something and then have some specialized rules around it. If you undercost it, then those rules become way too much. I imagine there's going to be some combo somewhere where the unit is designed for a certain like detachment, but then you add a second detachment on top of it and do a certain combo, and suddenly it blows up in your face.
Or in your opponent's face. But at least we can't stack stratagems on them anymore, just stack detachment rules instead. And unit abilities.
I think, that'd be... Even look at something like Armored Spear Tip, right? Where stacking stratagems, there's actually quite a lot in there, which is by not being able to stack stratagems and not being able to do things at certain times, you can't then do certain things. Like, if, for example, if you ever do, in the fight phase, for example, if you ever use any sort of stratagem for, like, re-rolling a save, you can't get back in the car.
Oh, you're like, okay, I want to jump out, super destroy this unit, and then get back in. You can either super destroy them, or you can get back in with that unit.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think that combined with the mission deck primary also being affected by that detachment stuff is really nice. Because that also means you're going, okay, well, I have this idea for a combo, but if I put these two detachments together, I don't get a good primary mission for it. So you're also then trying to like work around
I want to get this third force disposition. Yes.
Exactly right.
I mean, you know how fun it is to draw some cards and have an instant random challenge. Like, okay, it's the primary mission that you get to determine on your force disposition, isn't it? Not the secondaries, because secondaries seem to still be
separate. It's
and
just
presumably, from the sound of it, very much like the current mission deck we've got. They might drop Cull the Horde, because that seems to not get used at all.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I won a game because of Cull the Horde. Hey, now.
Did you indeed?
Yeah. It would have been a draw, but if I hadn't screwed up earlier, it would have still been a win without Cull the Horde. So I needed Cull the Horde to win, but still, I still won.
Very good. I mean, I'm surprised that you won. Well done, Paul.
It was taken hold. I had 7 units. They were playing Imperial Guard. They had 23.
Okay.
Including, it was mostly like 5-man units with a 5-man command squad. So that counts as 2. So any 10-man unit I destroyed was 2 points of it. Was I always killed more.
Right. Yes, of course.
And so
they separate.
But
on
that's
death.
the thing, right? Because even if you do go Purge the Foe, for example, which is like that's the one you want to do, it is still affected by what your opponent's doing. So like I think the one they showed was like it was if your Purge and your opponent is...
Was it Disruption? I think they showed off a Disruption versus Taken Hold.
There's a Disruption versus Taken Hold, and there was a Purge versus Disruption.
Right, okay.
The Purge versus Disruption one is you select units on... You select enemy units that are on objective. But it was interesting that is kind of like... If you're playing against someone who's trying to do Take and Hold, you can't just let them take and hold. Like, your primary mission is to stop them taking and holding. It's not just, you go kill stuff, they go try and hold stuff. Because otherwise you're playing 2 different games at that point. It does combine them quite well.
Yes. I'm also thinking, if you're like, okay, I can definitely murder my way through 100 guardsmen, you don't get to pick your mission before you see your opponent. I mean, usually if you're like, hey, I'm going to play that friend that always plays Imperial Guard. Friend, I know you dislike such people, Paul, that always play Imperial Guard. But you could be like, okay, I'm distinctly going to pick the kill mission or force disposition to kill. That's less likely. You don't know exactly what your opponent will have. They might end up with all tanks and like, I can't kill that. That sucks.
Exactly right. But if you have 2 detachments, that's good because then you can go, okay, well, I'm not going to do Purge the Foe. I'll do my other one, which is Purge the Tank or something, I don't know. Yeah,
so having 2 detachments can work in your favor.
Yeah.
Gives you
and
far
that also
more
means
options.
like if you have like if you're going like 3-1 detachments, it might be like you have 3 very specialized things that don't interact very well, but your opponent has to try and they have to know which one of the 3 you're taking. They might not have a plan for each of those 3 things. Because then that also affects the terrain, so you might be able to get them onto a bad terrain. How this is going to work for teams, I have no idea.
Yeah, teams will be interesting. Like, because you'll already have your force disposition decided, then your opponent gets drawn like, it's this mission. Like, am I any good at that mission?
For those who aren't aware, in teams events, when you kind of draft off, there are different maps you play on, but it's essentially the same map, but one is like a heavy layout and one's a light layout, and there's 3 normal layouts. But now when you draft, you're going to have your opponent, and then you're going to determine a mission, and that's going to have 3 different possible layouts. And then do you then have it like light versions of each of those, or is that just not going to be there anymore? Like,
we might not have the light and heavy. It might just be these are the layouts.
Yeah, it might be that like rather than the person deciding whether they want light, medium, heavy, that person decides which of the 3 options to choose, and then the next person does. That's probably how it will work. Again, that depends on if places are going to continue using their own layouts, right? Because obviously there's the WTC layouts, the UKTC layout.
Yes, and tournaments will want to say, okay, I've laid out all of the tables before the game starts. I don't want people rearranging the tables before every game begins.
Yeah. That was one of the nice parts about the teams events is you get there, you kind of go, you basically, whoever gets there first goes, okay, well, assign that one light, that one heavy, and these three medium. You start setting them up. Then you can draft and just go right for that table. It might be different. It might change the structure of how it works now because of that. But again, it's not a bad thing. It's just an interesting thing. It's something that I'm quite looking forward to finding out.
Yes, we'll see what occurs. I like that we've got it based on detachment, at least. That determines your primary mission in the mission deck. We don't know about the other ways to play. Not that it's going to be necessarily other ways to play. It's all unified, all definitely unified. But I didn't like 9th edition faction-specific missions because Games Workshop put a lot of balance on the back of those missions. So if you weren't playing those missions and they were trying to balance Catan by saying, well, Catan can't hold objectives for these 2 Necron secondary missions. Well, that definitely changes the whole game. It doesn't.
And then Drukhari just go, okay, I'm going to pick these 2 because they're insane. It's just kill you.
Yeah. Or sisters are always defending a shrine. There's always one shrine to defend. Like, I think I'll pick the closest one, please.
Yeah. I imagine Crusade will just be very much different, and any White Dwarf stuff will be very different. I think this is will definitely work for the pick up and play, for the people who don't want to do competitive stuff, where this is kind of like at the moment, I think when people go and just want to kind of play, if it wants to be kind of narrative, the current mission deck doesn't do narrative very well because it's
you can do the White Dwarf missions pretty well.
You do the White Dwarf missions, but again, that is for the layman who just wants to kind of pick up and play. Maybe they don't even know White Dwarf exists because there are people out there who aren't that into Warhammer, right? Like this is a good way to kind of have that balance between something that's strategic and also has a bit, you and your army and what you want to do affects the way that plays. Rather than now, which is just like you're fighting over circles, and the circles mean different things.
Yes. What have you rebranded your objective merch as, Paul? Is it a mouse mat, a drinks coaster?
I can tell you exactly. And if you want to go to paulusballetturf.shop, because I'm going to shill on this show, you can go and find what is now called my extremely versatile but stupid face. The actual category is called objective markers in brackets legends. But you can use them for many things. I have a few examples listed. Coasters, mouse mats, really bad frisbees, heist masks, identity fraud, decorative wall art, modesty towels, or playing literally any other game other than 40k, including previous 40k editions, Age of Sigmar, any other game that still uses circle objective markers. So there's a lot of options for it.
They would work for Age of Sigmar, yes.
Yes. So go get yourself some of my stupid face. I've seen them in the wild, not used by me.
Oh.
Someone at someone at South Coast Super Major, who I actually met last year, is quite a nice guy. Or really nice guy, I should say, because if I say quite nice guy, it kind of
oh dear, phrase. Oh my goodness, they've dropped a whole level.
Really nice guy. He was using my objective markers, and some mates of mine went to a Teams event recently, and one of them just sent a photo saying, "I know my opponent's going to be bad because he was using my objective markers," and I think he did 20-0, so it was probably fair. Basically, he got smashed. But not even that bad. I mean, 150, I think, is still 20-0.
Yes, because that's a difference of like 50 points.
Yeah, so I mean, 149 is not terrible. Like, I mean, seeing as my now worst score has been 100-18.
Yeah, as long as you can score more than... That's kind of the benchmark then. Score more than 50 and see how you do beyond that. That's what I think. So is Games Workshop now just swapping circles for squares? I mean, not actually entirely squares because their terrain bits, although they've given us numbers to be like, you can cut out your own, their terrain has little pointy out bits and squiggly bits, and their triangles are not entirely triangles.
Yeah. The terrain stuff is interesting. I'm still a bit... because obviously they have like terrain area and terrain...
Feature.
Which are two different things.
Yes, so a terrain area is the square. A terrain feature is the one tree that you want to put on it. I mean, you and I both hate the ITC terrain squares that have nothing on them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would accept if you just printed something on there like an exhaust fan or like an air conditioning unit. Something that would like you maybe spew out smoke. Just printing that on it, but just like a square. Get out of my sight. And to be fair, it's weird to say that when you have big circles on the ground to show, like, I stand here and I win points, but also get out of my sight. But yeah, with the way that this works, obviously now the terrain is the objective.
Yes, only some of the terrain bits. Not well. It depends which mission you're playing, actually.
Yeah, exactly right. Because they have said that there's a mission that will still maybe require moving stuff, which I assume means tokens, and that still.
Yeah, it might be that you put a token to say this unit has recovered the relic from that particular terrain feature and is now carrying it, and you need to get it back to like your deployment zone, and you'll get victory points when you recover it, and you'll get victory points if you have it at the end of the game, and victory points if you get in your deployment zone. Yeah, lots of things.
There's hidden obscuring, which are different things again.
Yeah, very similar words. So obscuring is like in, I think it was the 9th edition term, you cannot be seen behind area terrain, whereas hidden is when you're in area terrain, and if they're over 15 inches and you haven't attacked, then you cannot be targeted by ranged weapons.
Yeah, because the standard is then just the benefit of cover, which is the
the benefit of cover is -1 ballistic skill. I played at the weekend a Maelstrom book campaign, which has its own hidden rules, and if you're over 18 and you haven't taken your turn yet, you can't be shot. So it basically meant that unless I moved very, very quickly with, say, a Corvus Blackstar, then I couldn't shoot certain enemy units. It's like, okay, you survived the first turn, and it was fine. You know, it worked.
Yeah. And I can see that being something that's quite interesting. One thing they didn't say, because obviously at the moment, to be able to see out of a terrain piece, you have to be wholly within, like not partially on top.
Yes, in 10th edition, yes.
Yeah, they haven't said about that. It wasn't part of their example.
I know.
So there is the case of maybe they're going back to 9th, where towing in to the terrain area.
Yeah.
Then
you are in the area, then you can see out of the area.
But maybe you need to be wholly within to get the benefit of cover.
We also don't know about that.
That would help shooting. Because at the moment it feels like there's a lot of people like, oh, it's quite melee heavy. But if that was the case, then shooting becomes easier.
Yes. We don't know if it's going to be, I mean, in like Conflict 47, if half your unit or more than half your unit is in the area terrain, you get the cover. In 40K,
at the moment it's model by model, which is...
Yeah, if it's model by model, you can't really do -1 ballistic skill model by model.
Yeah, that is the main problem. You kind of have to do it, because at the moment, obviously, it's minus... it's +1 AP, which is fine, because you go, I take it on this one in cover.
Yes, yes.
But -1 ballistic skill is different, unless you'd have to start slow rolling really weird, like...
No, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, it just wouldn't work, right?
You'd have to do a hit roll at the I can see that person outside cover, so I do normal ballistic skill, then the wound roll, then the save roll. Oh, they're still alive. Okay, I'll do another attack against that same model. Paul, you've gone tiny. Oh, there we go.
My brain started hurting trying to work out how that would work, and I put my head in my hands, and that causes my model to glitch out. That was my brain trying to think, is when I go small. It's interesting. I like the idea, and I think, again, this is part of that kind of combining narrative and competitive, where people who will go... circles on a board look silly. This is now the way to go. You are fighting over this piece of terrain. This terrain obviously has something or means something. And you can then set up your board in a way that's like, you can make one of them like a crashed plane.
That crashed lander from the 4th edition starter set.
Yeah, exactly, right? You can start doing really silly stuff, or fun stuff.
Fun stuff, yes. We don't know if there's going to be prescribed terrain layouts. Now, the boards that we've seen have these particular shapes. We don't know if those shapes will be sold by Games Workshop or even in the Armageddon starter set. But then narrative players don't like exact symmetry, because that is tedious. Yeah. Tournament players will insist on it. So which one's going to win out?
I imagine for the cards, it's going to be... because it seems like they've already said that you'll be able to download the actual footprints, which is fine, and then you can put whatever you want on top.
I don't know if they've said download. I think they've just said you can make your own of these dimensions.
I thought they said they were going to make it available, but I could be wrong.
I think it's available to purchase. I got the vibe that it was buy our squares.
Buy our area terrain, area footprints will be available to purchase alongside new edition. Yeah, so maybe it is not a download thing. Although, to be fair, they've told you the exact sizes of the terrain pieces they use. So
yes, but without the sticky out bits and the imperfect triangle. So there'll be some people that are, well, we have to do it exactly like this, and I am touching the tiny corner, so I'm in the terrain, or not. And it'll depend on things. We also don't know, they've been a bit loose on what terrain you can put on it. Now, they've said in the article you can put whatever terrain features you want. However, if they don't say that in the mission deck, then people will see the shapes and think, oh, you have to do these shapes. That's the expectation.
Yeah, they have a few examples where there's stuff.
Are they examples or are they enforced?
That's the thing, we don't know. For tournaments, obviously that'll be part of the tournament terrain pack. or so
Probably.
that'll be enforced per tournament, and I imagine there will probably be some sort of hopefully standard that kind of forms out of that. But I think for your home games, I think as long as you can, like, here's the thing: don't just put like a whopping great bit of impassable terrain on each of the objective points, and then you'll
Yeah,
probably
I've
be
seen
okay.
people looking at it and just, oh, I'll just take my massive 10th edition 8-inch high walls and put them on, and it doesn't look great.
Yeah,
Doesn't
I
look.
think there'll be there'll be a level within that. And again, for your pickup games, like if there is a default version that they recommend, probably just go with that just to make it quick. But
I thought you might
um,
say that.
at the end of the day, for a lot of people, like getting a game in is like maybe something you do once a month. So the quicker and the more streamlined you can get that game in, the better, I think.
Yeah, I would just put stuff on there.
Just
Stuff
slap
is
some stuff on there
fine.
and hope for the best.
I'm in two minds about it. I thought you would like the terrain stuff. It's better than what we got in 10th edition's rulebook, which was, this is a fine board, this is not a fine board, this is a narrative board, this is a competitive board, and there's very little explanation given.
Mm.
This is in the mission deck, which is good. They use a very similar system in Age of Sigmar, where they say, okay, you're playing this mission, you want these terrain pieces in these areas. If you can use your own terrain, get sticks from trees, get rocks from the ground, I don't know how well they'll work. Missions shouldn't be based around, they're based around area terrain, maybe not terrain features.
Yeah, I like the idea of having it. Again, I'm someone who quite likes the terrain being fairly rigid because
Symmetrical.
it just helps keep things. Losing the game because of
yeah,
terrain
it's like, oh,
is
we didn't
always
realize
bad.
that area was bad, and oh, we needed more terrain over there because
Yeah.
that affects victory points. The amount
Yeah,
of terrain squares on the board is directly tied to victory points in 11th edition.
Losing the game because of terrain is always bad. So having that kind of be set out for you, not have to think about it, is always, for me, is always going to be positive. And
Yeah.
it also means that balance in other areas of the game. Because if someone comes along and goes, oh, this is super overpowered, and you go, well, it's because you're not using terrain right. I never
there's
win
a
against
right
town. You look
way
at their
to win.
board and it's just a empty plain with tower on one end and world east on the other. You go, yeah, well, of course you're losing.
And some hills. Yeah. I don't know. I think Games Workshop's trying to have it both ways. Like, here is exactly the way where you need to put the terrain. Also, you can put your own terrain features on. It's like sending a police officer to a protest, giving them a baton and saying, don't hit anyone. It's a bit of a mixed message.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the message is, here's what you should have, but obviously if you don't have that, just slap something else on there. It might not be as good.
Yeah,
But
I think
also,
you still got to
but
stick
again,
to the area
in the
terrain.
marketing, they're not going to be like, yeah, you could do it this way, but it'd be shit. They're going to try and hype everyone up, right?
I suppose. The clubs I go to, I don't think they're going to have terrain that matches these layouts. Like, the ruins are too big for a lot of the squares. So I don't want the tables to end up just being, here's a mat that you roll out, it's got some sticky tape on to show you where the squares are.
Yeah, you do need walls for stuff about, hiding behind the walls and for true line of sight.
Well, as long as you got the
Charging and
squares,
engaging
the
range
area
with that
terrain,
kind of stuff.
even the little barricades block line of sight.
Yeah, so there's still that kind of stuff. You do need some walls, but again, it'll be interesting to see what they do with it.
I think Games Workshop might try and sell a table in a box, which is not something they've done, like, for a while.
No.
So it's, here's all your card area terrain, here's your mission pack, here's the ruins that go on the card that perfectly matches the terrain pack.
If they put that in the starter box.
Oh yeah, if they put that in the
that'd
starter
be fantastic.
box, that will be a good starter set. I liked the 2nd edition starter set because it came with loads of terrain.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great.
Truly an Armageddon callback.
Exactly. The other thing with terrain that I do quite like is they've changed plunging fire.
Yeah, you'll need to be 3 inches up.
I think I've had plunging fire come up in one game.
I think I might have had it in 2, and I think I forgot it in one of them.
Yeah, like
For a
the
bit.
fact that it's now 3 inches, but also towering gets it to things on the ground makes verticality
Yes.
slightly more interesting. Yeah, interesting
So-
that again they're doing +1 and -1 ballistic skill with terrain stuff, so that the +1 and -1s to hit from your
Like stealth.
detachments and stealth and those rules
Yeah.
still get affected.
Otherwise, it'd be like, oh, great, there's a nothing thing. They had the same thing they said with Oath of Moment. Like, oh, wait, we were giving you rerolls to the wound roll. Well, what's the point of having anything twin-linked?
Yeah.
Was their thought. They've also changed the color on the terrain maps from green and red to blue and red, which helps colorblind people.
Yes,
That's a good thing.
it is. Hopefully they'll do that for the updates the points PDF as well. Because that's still,
yeah,
obviously they have the
yes.
plus and minus. I mean, it took them long enough to get the plus and minus in there with colors.
Yeah,
then
well,
they went red
arrows that go up and
red
down,
green.
triangles that
Yeah.
vaguely point in one direction.
Yes. The thing they need to still do when they update faction packs and the FAQs and stuff is, for the love of God, put what it used to say. Not just say, update this page to this, because I don't know what that means. What did it used to be?
Yes, you have to have it saved and then you need to cross-reference it.
Just go change it to this and then cross out the old one and put the new one in.
Yeah, that would be good. That's how they do the FAQs. Oh yeah, they're going to combine all the FAQ stuff idea-wise. So you're not going to have like if you're playing the Codex version, this is your detachment rule. And if you're playing the balance updates, which is how most people play, then you play it slightly different. Ooh, yeah, we're going to have one unified way to play, at least in terms of that.
Yes.
Don't know how that'll work with, say, Crusade. Are we still getting Crusade? We're assuming so, because at least it'll be compatible rules. 10th edition to 11th edition, the unit profiles are not changing. Maybe some wording will change, but the unit profiles are not changing. Boarding action should still be around, maybe? Or at least is compatible. They did boarding actions in the 500 Worlds book.
Yeah. Maybe they'll remember to update that pretty quick rather than with 9th to 10th where they went, oh yeah, we should do that at some point.
Well, they gave us a PDF right at the start of the edition. And then a year later, there was a book for boarding actions, which wasn't a good book. Do not recommend.
I still haven't played boarding actions. I've heard it's good, but...
It's an interesting way of doing things. It has a good way of doing Overwatch. You set Overwatch instead of shooting. Then it's like, hey, there's some guys pointing guns down that corridor. Do we really want to run into them? I'm out of things to say now.
As well. I think with 11th edition, I think people being concerned about 11th edition, I don't think you need to be, because like if you're sitting there kind of worried and getting, negative about the thing that's not even out yet, that's not any way to live.
Negative vibes. What's with these negative vibes?
Then maybe try enjoying things. Like there's enough to be negative about. Have a bit of whimsy, bit of positivity.
Well, I've done a freak out so that people don't have to freak out. That's a service.
Just in a constant state of freaking out about everything. So, Warhammer is the one area where I can freak out slightly less.